Welcome to the MaYapinion Podcast, where two dynamic sisters dive deep into the world of women in entrepreneurship, sharing their own personal journeys, insights, and opinions.
From their wins to challenges, the highs and lows of their personal lives, and the hottest topics shaping our world, we are the fierce and fearless hosts that tackle it all.
Get ready for engaging conversations, inspiring stories, and thought-provoking discussions that celebrate the power and resilience of women.
Now, let's dive into an episode where we empower women entrepreneurs, one opinion at a time.
Hey guys, welcome back to the MaYapinion Podcast. I have my incredible co-host here with me again today, Lily. Welcome back to the show.
Hi guys.
I am so excited to be wrapping up our mini-series. This has been so fun to have not only another woman in business, entrepreneur, but my sister. This has been so fun. I love it.
Yeah, it's been fun.
So today it's going to be a really fun episode because we're going to talk about a lot of different things. You guys asked a lot of questions, so we're going to answer them at the end. And there are questions about the show, what we're up to, the future. But before we get to that, we're going to address one of the big topics that has been brought up. And we've kind of danced around it a little bit, right, Lily? I feel like we have in these episodes.
I guess. Yeah, a little bit.
I think so. That's my opinion. I think so. But, you shared your entrepreneurial journey and where you are right now. And we're going to talk a little bit later about where you're going and that kind of stuff. And same with me. And I think it's really cool because we have two totally different backgrounds. But I think what everyone has been kind of wondering listening to this, and I think what a lot of you will be questioning is, how do I know if entrepreneurship or business in general, how do I know if this is for me?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've shared, like I've shared how I knew, right, in the beginning of this mini series, it was an evolution for me. And I feel like it was an evolution for you too, Lily. But in your opinion, to kind of kick this off, what is, like, what are some things that are kind of green? I like to call them green flags. What are some green flags that when you meet, I know there's some guys that listen to this too, but we talk mostly about women in business. When you meet really amazing women, what are some green flags that you see where you're like, oh my God, you should go into business for yourself. You should go into entrepreneurship. What are some green flags? That's what we're going to talk about today. What do you see in women where you're like, I could see her doing that. I could see her going out on her own. What are the green flags for you?
I would say women that are really confident in what they're doing already. If that is, leadership, working with somebody, or working within that company at a certain position, and that's something that they want to explore within their own creative outlet. Like I used to be a retail manager and I did really well with that in my opinion. So then,
In my opinion, you did great too. So
I feel like
yes.
that does, that translates well being your own boss because you have to manage yourself, which sometimes is the hardest person to manage. So that's a green flag. If you're doing, if you're getting positive feedback from your own position that you're already in, say you're not working, you're not in a position, if there are things that you're really passionate about that, you think about all day, all night, you dream about it, then that's probably a sign you should, do something about that. And you can 9 times out of 10 make money with those dreams and aspirations.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree so much that we did a whole episode on passion, which you guys can go back a couple episodes and listen to, because that is so important. If you are, like you said, if you're dreaming about it and you're really thinking about it, that's a green flag. But I really love what you said about if you're in a current position, or if you're in a leadership position, or if you're in, fill in the blank, and you're really excelling, that could be a green flag because, you know, you said it very well. And I've joked about it too, I'm a really tough boss.
Yeah.
I'm my own boss. And I think if you're able to have that level of accountability, which we've also talked about before too,
Mm-hmm.
it can be a real big green flag where you're like, hang on a second, I'm pretty good at holding myself accountable. Maybe I can do this for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some other green flags that you've seen in women? And of course, I'll share too. But what are some other ones? I love identifying your strengths in leadership within current roles or positions or things you've held in the past. If you haven't held a lot of positions or worked in a lot of places, that's okay because if you're dreaming about something, if there's a passion, if there's a fire inside of you,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a green flag. Are there
Yeah.
any others that you kind of think about off the cuff?
So I have like a specific situation I'm thinking about. So
Yeah.
I have a friend who has lost about 70 pounds in the last couple of months, and she's just been sharing her journey. Yeah, it's really awesome.
Yeah, girl.
But
I mean, of course, it's in a
yeah,
healthy way. So,
yes,
yes,
yes. So,
congrats.
and she's sharing it, just online, and she's got a big following from that. And I've recently seen, we're personal friends, but I've seen people she doesn't even know reaching out on, commenting, well, do you have um a meal plan, or do you have a workout routine you could share? And I recently talked with her about this, like, you could do this, like, this, you could share this for people like you. She had a binge eating disorder, so she got that under control, and works out, eats healthy. And so I'm like, that's also to me a huge green flag. You see, you just trying to put your own personal experience out there, and people want what you have to say. They want to hear it. They are living similar to what you are going through, and they want, I mean, you're being real, so they want that. And hey, you can sell that.
Yeah, that's really huge. You've shared a little bit about this friend with me, and I think this is so amazing what she's doing. And I am so inspired by this story, but also
Mhm.
how you're empowering. This is what we do here. We empower women, right, to be our best selves. And I'm curious because, at the end of the day, this is her story, but I'm curious, was there a turning point for her in which she was finally just like, enough, I'm going to make a change? Because I feel like that's a common thing that does happen. That's another green flag.
Mhm.
Was there a certain thing that happened in her life where she was just like, I'm doing this, I'm going for it?
Well, she has three young little girls. So I think she finally just realized she needed to be, a better role model for them. Because we do live in a day and age where social media is going to show our children what to expect your body to be like, and that's not always healthy or normal. So it's up to us to show them, no, if you work hard and you're a real person, you can achieve your goals and dreams. And so I think she just really wanted to make a difference for her daughters. So,
Yeah. And I love that story for her. And you said a couple different things when talking about her as well. One, I love that you're empowering her because it's so important. And it's so important that when we as women succeed or we see the potential, or like we're talking about today, I didn't even realize you're wearing a green shirt. I keep saying green flag, so this was kind of meant to be if you guys are watching the video versus listening, but kind of meant to be. But I love that. I think that's a beautiful thing. And when we can encourage other women and lift people, of course, but women
mhm.
is what we talk about here. And we can encourage them by saying, like, look at what you're doing. You said so many things to her that were green flags for her by her just simply being herself,
Mhm.
simply putting out her positive results, simply putting out, this is who I am. This is There is so much strength in vulnerability. And I say this all the time. And I think that you and I, in my opinion, have demonstrated that. But I love that you shared the example of your friend too, because, you know, some you guys listening might connect with my vulnerability. They may connect with your vulnerability, Lily,
Hmm.
but they may connect with your friend's vulnerability. Everybody connects in different ways. And I mean, I think I just commend people when a 70-pound weight loss journey, like that's huge. That's huge. Huge, huge,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
And of course, people are going to reach out. And I think that's where we get a little stumped. And sometimes we put up the yellow flag for ourselves or the red
Yeah.
flag for ourselves
Hmm.
and go, oh my God, wait, I made this transformation for myself, whether it's mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
How do we implement this for other people?
I think we also a lot of times have like imposter syndrome. So we don't want to, because I see other people and I'm like, well, you know, I'm good at what I'm doing, but they're also good at what they're doing, but I'm not doing exactly that. Does that make me not worth what they are? So I think maybe that, and I feel like especially when I don't know how many social media videos I see about weight loss, and so I think a lot of people think, well, I didn't do as much as that person, but you don't know everybody's journey.
Mhm.
You don't know what they're going through. You don't know their journey. You just see what's online. So you kind of have to just take that in stride.
Yeah, we've talked about, social media, the highlight reel,
Yeah.
and that's why I just really love that you use this example
Mhm.
because she's just keeping it real. It's not the highlight reel. This is what's
Yeah.
happened. And again, there is so much strength and vulnerability because when you're able to say, you know what, this is where I was, this is where I am, this is where I'm going, it
Hmm.
it tends to draw people along with you.
Yeah.
And that has been my takeaway from the journey of entrepreneurship, at least in the beginning phases, like in the inspiration and kind of
Mhm.
the gusto that happens in in the beginning with it. And I think you've experienced that too, in my opinion. And as we've
Yeah.
talked about on previous episodes, and guys, please go back and listen if you haven't to Lily's episode on how she, talks about getting into entrepreneurship because it really just started from a personal need. And I
Yeah.
think that's so inspiring because then people, understand, okay, they did it. So how do I do this? How do I,
Yeah.
come along for the journey? And I think that's really cool. In my opinion, I think that's just so powerful.
Yeah, me too. I think in a lot of people's opinion, that will be hopefully
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, I think so. Like, are there any other red flags? I really love all of your green flags, but any red flags or orange or yellow flags? I think the imposter syndrome one is a huge, huge one that we all deal with.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to overcome that one, the big red flag, is exactly kind of what you said. Like, you need to kind of mute yourself on what you watch and pay attention to on social media because everybody was at a certain point. Everybody started at a certain point. Everybody is at different places. And
Mhm.
also, you're going to attract your people. I think that's what people don't understand either. So,
Yeah.
can't be afraid to put yourself out there because,
I
uh,
think, yeah, I think, in my opinion, I think, imposter syndrome is not really a red flag, green flag, it's a yellow flag, especially for me because I have that a lot in my life. It's just, I grew up in the age of social media. So it's going to happen. I don't know anybody my age that doesn't have a little bit of that if you're on social media because you're constantly evaluating your peers online, you're seeing what they're doing. And if you're not close with people, you went to high school, college with, all you're seeing is what they're posting on social media. So you're constantly trying to live up to what they're doing. And if, you know, half of the people I knew growing up don't have kids or aren't married, so they're not going to be anything like me. None of them have their own business. Well, I won't say none because I don't know, I don't know everybody, but the majority.
majority from what you're seeing on the highlight
Yeah,
reel.
yeah,
Yes.
they don't have a business, so and it's hard because you still want to feel like, well, I don't have XYZ or 1,000 trillion followers like they do on my personal page, which I don't even care about, but it's still that, well, I have my own business. Why don't I? Or so I don't know. It's just it's hard. It's not necessarily a red flag. It's definitely not a green flag. But I would say it's a yellow flag. Definitely for me because it's something I'm still having to get over.
I think that makes so much sense to call it a yellow
Hmm.
flag because I mean yellow means take a pause, right? Slow
Yeah.
down, right? Get prepared,
Yeah,
some of us.
it doesn't mean you're not going to be successful, but it does mean you are going to have to overcome probably a lot more things than people who don't care about
Yeah.
what is perceived of them.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone has different challenges, right?
Yeah.
But I agree with you completely. And I think you brought up a really important point here. And this is why I love doing this show with you because we're a decade apart,
Hmm.
right? So I remember, yes, in the dinosaur ages, I did not have social media. Social media did not exist when I was
Yeah.
growing up. That is so wildly different because if we were, I mean, maybe this is a whole episode in the future. You guys tell us. We'll be answering your questions in just a minute. So maybe this is one. But I mean, Facebook came out in 2004. That's when I went to college. Okay. We all know my age. I don't care. I'm not one of those people that cares about my age. But that's when I went to college.
Hmm.
I mean, like, I think about that sometimes and I'm like blown away. And it was only for people in college. Like, you had to have a college email address, which is like,
I didn't even know that. I
yeah,
didn't even know.
yeah. Okay. So now you're learning something today, too. Yeah. So Facebook came out and you had to have a college and you had to wait for your college to get registered.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. And then I mean, that all went out the window very
Yeah.
fast when obviously
They
good
were
old
just trying to
Mark,
be MySpace.
yeah, good old Mark realized he could make money.
Yeah.
MySpace came out when I was in high school.
Hmm.
But I don't think it was until my sophomore or maybe even junior year. So and MySpace wasn't like instant gratification. You can only put like one picture up. It
Yeah.
wasn't the same thing. So that is a totally different perspective. So I appreciate you sharing that with me and us because you're right. And that's
Hmm.
something that I'm always worried about too with, people coming up, I mean, now we're even more engaged with TikTok and things like that, but that's a whole other thing. But I love that you put it is a yellow flag because you can be aware of it. I mean, yellow means cautious, right?
Yeah.
Yellow. And you can go back to green. The
Yeah.
light will turn green. Are you going to,
Yeah.
take a pause
You
and
just
wait for it
can't
to go green?
you can't
Or
let it ruin. If you have a dream and it's something you want to do, you can't let yourself be set back just because you think that, like me, I haven't posted in probably 10 months on Instagram and I'm still, over here making sales. So it's different. It's you can't let it set you back. You can acknowledge that it's not going to be, your strong suit, and maybe you figure out how you can fit into social media, but I feel like social media is just it does create a lot of the imposter syndrome that, is that yellow flag for me.
yeah, but I think I'm really glad you're talking about this because, in my opinion, I feel like you found a way to make it work for you because you lean into your stories, you lean into selling your product through stories and sharing those successes
Yeah.
and doing what feels right for you. And when you were first growing your business, and it's going to keep growing, right?
Mhm.
But in my opinion, I think that you've learned like, okay, I don't want to get on Instagram every single day and do a live, but I'm comfortable sharing my products, my wins, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's totally okay. And that's when it kind of like, you run through the yellow light and you
Yeah.
just keep going to the next green one.
Mhm.
That's my metaphor and how I take that because I think that's really important. I think that's an important message because I think there's so much pressure to be out there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that is necessarily, like we were talking about earlier, a green flag that you are ready to be an entrepreneur or ready to start a business. You do not. I know so many people that never show their face on social media
Well,
and have
and
very successful businesses, right?
for some businesses, it's just also not necessary. So
Right.
it might not even be a flag at all. You know?
Right. So then maybe it's right, but it could be. I feel like it is, in my opinion, for a
Hmm.
lot of people, it's a flag because they feel like they have to do it. And
Yeah.
that's why I love that you're sharing that you engage, but you're engaging in a way that you're comfortable with now. And I think that's a game changer.
Yeah.
I think it's a game
And
changer.
it might change for me. I might, I have like made videos and my dog was barking in the background or something. I'm like, screw it. I'm not posting this. So then I don't post it and I don't feel like making another one. So it's about what you're comfortable with. And,
Yeah. I
you
mean,
know,
it is kind of funny though too
yeah,
because we're posting all these videos, so
I
you are
know.
comfortable in it's some extent, and that's okay. But I think the point of talking about this is, what are the green flags, what are the
Hmm.
yellow flags, and what are the red flags of entrepreneurship? And I think that this was a very important part to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, so thanks for sharing that because it's a totally different perspective. And now you've learned just how old your sister is by the social media talk. But for me, and then I want to jump to our next topic, but for me, when I meet women like your friend, right, that has
Hmm.
had this amazing transformation and has people reaching out and is inspirational, that is a green flag for me all day long.
Yeah.
People that are doing something they love, people that are doing it to better themselves, and then people want to know how they did it.
Hmm.
Win, win, win. That is somebody who can start a business. But like we were talking about, the yellow flag comes in with the imposter syndrome and things
Yeah.
like that. So, how do you overcome that? Guess what, guys? We have this beautiful thing called Google. We have this beautiful thing called YouTube. And we
Hmm.
have this beautiful thing called, websites like Fiverr, Upwork, all these places where people will do the things that we don't really want to do, which Lil, you and I have talked about on previous
Yeah.
episodes. So we can remove some of that imposter syndrome crap that we
Yeah.
go through
Hmm.
to propel us forward. Like your friend, maybe setting up a meal plan. Like maybe she wants to write it out, but she's like, how do I package it all up together? Guess what? You can have this person take that off your plate. We live in one of those amazing times to start a business, to become an entrepreneur, to do the things that we love. And that's when I see people hit the red flag is when they're like, how do I do this logistically? How do
Hmm.
I? There are ways around that. And I think you sharing your story and me sharing my story about it, like, I think it's really important that we
Yeah.
share that. I think another, you know, green flag for me, and I think it depends on the person, but the most successful women that I see in business and in entrepreneurship and just even starting a side hustle, which I think is really important to do.
Yeah.
Um, they are open to risk. You're open to risk. And when I
Yeah.
say that you're open to risk, it does not mean that you're like, honey, I'm home. I've quit my job. We have no health care. We have nothing.
Hmm.
I'm selling the house. Is that admirable? Sure. But is that realistic for everybody? It's not. But you have to
Yeah.
be willing to take risks to, and you have to bet on yourself. Like, those are
Yeah.
huge things for me. You have to be able to take risks. You have to bet on yourself. You have to believe in yourself. Even when you have that imposter syndrome come in, believe that you can make it happen because you really, really can. And those are the things that are like real big green flags for me when I
Hmm.
see that in women, because I'm not necessarily like when a woman tells me that they want to start a business or anyone, right, wants to start this or a side hustle. and they're like, well, I want to start this. I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to make the investment. Not going to quit my job just yet. That's still a green flag for me because
Yeah.
they're searching out their passion and what they want to do, and they believe in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's your opinion on that? I that's my big, big, big green flag for me, is when they're willing to go that extra mile for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a green flag in my opinion too, because, you're smart, you're thinking about the possible outcomes, you're intelligent to know that, hey, this might not work out. I'm a smart person. This is, seems like an intelligent idea, but I'm going to, have my backup, my 9 to 5, whatever it is. And when I become profitable enough in my side hustle, my business that I'm creating, then maybe I'll cut it down, or maybe I'll go all in. To me, I mean, it just is intelligent. I would have done that if I were in a different position,
Yeah.
knowing what I know now, you
Yeah.
know?
But so here's where my yellow flag, I don't even want to say red flag, maybe orange flag starts to kick in,
Mm-hmm.
is when it is to a point where you're doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
You can sustain yourself, you can pay your bills, and things are in the right momentum. And you've got to make a choice. You've got to say, am I going
Yeah.
to bet it all on business, or am I going to stay the safe route? Because what happens there, this is my opinion and I've seen it many times, and this happened for me, and I chose one route, okay? But when I see women go, well, yeah, I'm making, money doing this, but this is really comfortable being able to know how much I make every single week, and
Yeah.
that's where I see it become almost an orange flag. Because then you can only commit so many hours a week. As
Well,
much
you
as
get
I
you get
wish I was a
comfortable.
vampire, you get comfortable.
Yeah.
You get comfortable. I wish I was a vampire. I wish I never slept, because I would accomplish a whole lot more, but that's not reality. And on the other side, though, when I see women, it's almost like a diving board, and you're like super high up and you've never
Uh-huh.
jumped off that high before. But when you do it, there's no looking back, because now you're in the water and
Mm-hmm.
it feels amazing. But I think it's about balancing that moment and figuring out what that moment is for you and what feels uncomfortably comfortable
Yeah.
for you. And that's really the biggest um that's the biggest moment, I think, on this journey, starting a business,
Yeah.
becoming an entrepreneur. I think that's that leap that needs to take place, but you have to be in that place, and you have to know that it's not going to feel like, oh, I'm totally comfortable, but it's also got to feel right, and
Yeah. I
finding that
mean,
medium is
you're gonna have to feel comfortable feeling uncomfortable for a while, especially if you're gonna take a leap, not lift, leap from something super steady.
you could be taking a couple lifts, but yeah.
Take a lift. Um, you're gonna have to feel comfortable feeling uncomfortable for a while, because you're gonna go from something where you were probably making extra money on the side,
Yep.
paying, saving, putting into your business, to now you're just paying the bills. You're just getting by. And that's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah.
Per use, Lil, you nailed it. As you guys have heard, when you interviewed me, Lil, in the second episode of our mini series here, and I shared, the second I had a retainer client and enough, mini gigs here and there to pay the bills, to have enough
Mm-hmm.
to live comfortably. It wasn't like I was struggling, but it was not what I was used to from corporate America.
Yeah.
That's when I felt like I could climb that highest diving board
Mm-hmm.
and just go, I'm going to do it. And I think there's that balance between the green flag and then maybe stopping yourself a little bit, because you have to be open to risk in this. You have to be.
Yeah.
And if you fail, it's okay, because you can pick yourself back up again, because you're not starting at big
Yeah.
fat goose egg zero, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, anything else you want to add about
No, I think that was a good way to segue into our questions that you guys have
Yeah, I think so too.
whipped up for us.
I think so too. Okay, so the first question is for you, Lily.
Okay.
And it is, why be nice to me. No, I'm just kidding. Why did you decide to do this podcast and this show with me, besides me asking you to do it a million times? But why
Yeah.
did you decide to do it?
Well, for me, it just made sense. I'm a woman in business. Did it take me a second to realize, well, actually, I am, yeah, it did take me a second. But then when I did, I started to realize, even on social media, I don't see a lot of people in my specific situation doing what I'm doing. The only people I know are people that I actually know. Like, people have reached out to me if I buy something and they see my address, not like gonna get into that, but like they know that I'm a military, in the military, or I'm a military spouse, and they've reached out and I've connected that way, which has been the most random way of connecting with another reseller in my position. Um, so I realized, actually, I have not heard any stories like mine specifically, or even seen anybody um in my, lifestyle. So I was like, yeah, of course. Maybe, I mean, I know there's other people that have similar stories, if not, more interesting stories. So I was like, it's a no brainer.
I think sometimes people, like, we don't feel like our own stories are interesting. We
Yeah.
don't. But I actually think that you've never told me that. So it's pretty cool that we're
Yeah.
talking about this right now. I just wanted you to do the show with me because I saw you growing a business and being entrepreneurial. And I was and am so proud of you that I was like, I want you to be a part of this with me. Like,
Hmm.
I wanted you to. And so that's so cool though, because we've never talked about that you were connecting with people in different ways and that you really
Yeah.
didn't see this being filled. So, and being served in a podcast format. And I have to, like, I'm sitting here racking my brain as we're talking about this. And being in the podcast world in multiple capacities in business and also 2 shows of my own,
Hmm.
I think you're right. I mean, I'm not saying there's nothing out there, but nothing like this where we talk about entrepreneurship in general, but for women
Yeah.
and giving our opinions. But like, you are actually sharing the nuts and bolts of what it took to actually start this.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
that's why I was, sign me up.
you were. I was so excited because sometimes, I'm the big sister. I'm a little bossy. I'm like, you've got to do this. You've got to, be a part of this. But you were so pumped to do it. So
Yeah.
I was really excited to get that question.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. So the next one's for Maya. Why did you decide to take on a co-host after a while with not having one?
Yeah, so I talked about this a little bit when you interviewed me
Hmm.
in our second episode of the series, but this is a little bit more intimate, so I'll share. Um, for me, it's really personal for a couple reasons. One, I kind of talked about already. I just saw the potential in you. You and I have always been able to converse
Hmm.
so well, even when we have completely different perspectives about things. And I also really enjoy the element of the fact that we're literally a decade apart. So you bring this perspective, like even us talking about today, like social media,
Yeah.
and just like you bring a perspective that I don't have. And it's something that I've always wanted to bring to all of my shows and all of my seasons that I've done,
Hmm.
is different perspectives, because I'm only one perspective. So that was one reason. Of course, you're my sister. And so I just was so super proud that you were building a business and doing this. And I'm like, oh God, this is in our blood. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But there's also the aspect of the fact that when I first did MaYapinion, and I talk about this at length again a couple of episodes ago, so you can refer back to that one, but I had a co-host and I really, really enjoyed having a co-host. There's something to having a co-host on a show, on a podcast that you really connect with, that you know how to riff with
Yeah.
and bounce ideas off of each other. And if you talk over each other or talk to each other, like it's just cool and it just is a good feeling. And I think it engages the audience a lot more.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the most obvious reason is I founded the website findacohost.com because that's how passionately I feel about finding the right co-host. And most podcasts, I do feel need a co-host, and I just felt like it was time. And I feel like we've birthed this, and yeah, I'm excited for it to carry forward because I really think you understand sharing your opinion. You're very opinionated like me, so
Yes,
hopefully
I
that
am.
answers all. Does that answer that?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So yeah, a little plug too. But that's, it's another reason I founded Find a Co-host. I really missed having a co-host and I just had yet to find one that really fit this niche. And this was just kind of perfecto. So,
Yeah.
okay, so this is kind of a question for both of us.
Mhm.
So, what is next for the show? So, I guess I'll share first and then you
Yeah.
tell me what you'd like to do. But so we wanted to start with the mini series to relaunch everything, get Lily involved, get the brand a little rejuvenated. And also, I mean, I'm not in corporate America anymore, right? And I talked a
Yeah.
lot about corporate America and I wanted to talk about entrepreneurship and women in business. And it had been naturally shifting that way. And so we want to continue the shift in that direction, but probably coming up on more questions that's happening. But Lily and I are going to continue to do this together. And, we're keen to bring on, people that are interesting for both of us. So Lily, I'll hand it over to you to answer that question because I know we've got more coming, but
What's next? Well, I think we just want to, keep growing this community of, women in business and anybody, I guess, that really wants to listen. Anybody that wants to go into business, had a business, wants to restart in business, everything. So I think what's next is just, try to find a lot of like-minded individual women in all types of fields. If it's retail, if it's I don't even know, 8,000 other things, we want to hear from them. We want to hear what their journeys are, if they're like ours, if they're completely different, their failures, their successes. Um, yeah, I think that's what's next, in my opinion.
yeah, of course, you said it even better than me. Yeah, I mean, every single field, I think what's so interesting and what I'd love to see the show continue to focus on, like you said so perfectly, is that whether you're a woman in tech,
Hmm.
in, you know, you're a solopreneur, if you are doing fitness, like we brought up earlier,
Yep.
if you, I mean, there's so many
I
things.
know all retail was the only one that came to mind at the
Like,
moment because
well,
you
that's
said
that's your core,
yeah.
right? That's your core. So it doesn't matter though, because the reality is there's this beauty that happens with women that regardless of the field that we're in, we face similar struggles. And
Yep.
I'm excited to continue to have that
Yep.
conversation with you too. I think that's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I guess that
Mhm.
kind of answers the next two. Are you going to have guests on the show again? And what kind of guests are we looking for? We kind of already said that. Of course, yep, we're looking for entrepreneurial women. Um, in every field who can share their experiences, good, bad, what their successes were, what their failures were, what their timelines were, if they're 16, if they're 70, you know? I mean, everybody starts at a different point, so we're looking for all perspectives.
Yeah, I think you nailed that perfectly. Yes, of course. Everyone's asking, when are we going to have guests on?
Yeah.
But it was really important to, I think, both of us that um, we shared our stories, right? And shared our connection. And, people know us as sisters already, but now they know us as business owners and different types of business owners and different
Mhm.
opinions, because that's what we share here.
Yeah.
And we are absolutely looking to do that. You're right.
Yeah.
Have guests on. We do not, um, we don't care how old you are, right? I
Yeah.
mean, anyone can start a business at any time, and anyone can start their passion and their journey at any point in their life. I've had some amazing guests, and this is what helped me transition this show, right? Like you were kind of talking about too earlier, Lily, is, and I talked about, I just realized I was really super attracted to bringing women on the show that were a little more entrepreneurial focused, because that's where my life was going. And so this
Yeah.
was a natural evolution. And so, will we have guests on? Absolutely. We want to hear from you guys. We already have, so thank you so much.
Mhm.
So be patient with us as we get back to that. But to your inquiries. But yeah, and we're excited, and like you said, we want to hear. We want to hear how you failed. We want to hear
Yeah.
how you've succeeded. We want to hear where you're going and what advice you have, because Lily and I have our own stories, but there's so many women out there that can share their stories and help you guys succeed as well. So I would
Yeah.
agree with that um as well. So Lily, I'm going to ask you, what is it like
Mhm.
working with me? That was a question that we got to. What is it like? What, I mean, we've now understood why you said yes to the show, but
Mhm.
what is it like doing a show with me and working with me?
I mean, it's been fun. I mean, before we start recording, we talk, we have, catch ups, and then afterwards we catch up. So it's fun. It doesn't feel like, I'm working or even recording to anybody. We're just talking, to be honest. Um, so to me it's fun, and I feel like it's a lot less pressure.
Well, you're just bringing up my point as to why I found to find a co-host, because it's great to be in it. It's like
Yeah.
having a business partner, right? It's like, it's really awesome to be in it with somebody. So, okay, well, now you've just announced that. So everybody's going to want to come on the show for an interview now, because they're going to want to have fun with us. Um, but yeah, I mean, same for me. I have just absolutely loved doing this with you. I'm so glad we did this mini series. I'm so glad you guys have received it so well. And I've just, beyond everything you said too, because I agree with everything, I just really enjoy not only just having a partner, but I love your perspective, because I have a totally different perspective. I'm super corporate. I came up through the
Yep.
corporate world. I did not start my entrepreneurial journey until later in life. I'm what people call an entrepreneur, where you created things within big organizations. And I didn't know what that was until I started to have those ideas of, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I can do this. And so it's so cool for me to have you on the show and talk about, like, your journey is really entrepreneurship. Like, it's really starting from that point, where mine is a little different. I was an entrepreneur before being an entrepreneur, which
Mm-hmm.
I guess we just found another episode to talk about, right?
There
But
you go.
it is something that a lot of people go through, because being an entrepreneur and creating things within a large company is something that people excel at, and can
Mm-hmm.
be something that can
Yeah.
catapult you into entrepreneurship. So,
Yeah.
um, okay, so I guess you still like working with me, so that's good.
Yeah.
And we still love each other, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So I got to ask you first, what is next for your businesses? I mean, we were already talking about some wins you had tonight. So whatever you want to share and you're open to sharing, but what's next for Lily's businesses? I feel like you're continuing to learn and grow, and we're definitely going to continue to do the show. So
Mm-hmm.
you guys will hear here still, but what's next for you, Lil?
What's next for me is just, trying to overcome my personal obstacles within myself to help me grow my own businesses. I've already said before that, my anxiety, time management skills are not great. So for what's next for me is just hopefully to not only grow internally, but you know, physically my business, and eventually I would like to have a physical storefront. So that's what's next for me, hopefully. What's next for you?
That is definitely going to be next for you. I am
Yeah.
so excited. And I know a lot of that has to do with your lifestyle, right? And
Yeah.
your marriage, and things that you're moving towards. But I think it's amazing what you've done already, and you are creating this base, and I mean, you've just come so far already. I'm excited to see where it goes. And I mean, selfishly, I really want you to have a brick and mortar store because I mean, hello, we come from retail. This is our blood.
Yeah.
So let's make it happen.
Yep.
Um, okay, so I have to ask you this before I answer your question back to
Okay.
me. Do you have a name that you would name your brick and mortar, like your actual store
Oh
yet?
gosh,
Is that
no.
still in the works?
No,
Okay.
I'm so undecisive. Or indecisive, not undecisive, indecisive. So that would take a long time for me to think about.
But this is why I love doing the show
Yeah.
with you, because it's like, I love that you have that vision to do that. But
Yeah.
for me, I'm more like, oh God, I know exactly what I would call the store. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Complement each other so well in that, because I'm like, and it wouldn't, yeah, I mean, this is your store, so you have to come up with your own name. But for me, I'm like, oh God, I know what I call the store already. So
No, for me, I'd be like, okay, what street am I on? What city am I in? I need to think about all those things and then tie it into a name.
yeah. I
So
love, but I love that because we have totally different thought processes that
yeah.
go into it. But I think the kind of the outcome of that, or the thought process or moral of that story, however you want to output that, is it means it can still work. Like, it's
Yeah.
still okay. And I think that's really cool. Like, for me, I'm like, oh, I'm like, I'd want to name something maybe after our brother, right? Like Andreas's like sister's closet or something like that. And then I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
Maya, get a little less sentimental, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, something cute like that. Like, that's where my branding mind
Hmm.
goes. So I love that you have this other side where you're like, okay, well, where am I going to be in the
Yeah.
country, and where am I going to do this? And I think those are both really good business things to
Hmm.
think about and decisions. So, okay, so to answer the question and to round this out for you guys, because you had some other questions, but these were the biggies. So, what's next for my businesses? Well, let's get Lily a brick and mortar store. Come on, hello, and hello, let's do that. Obviously, we're going to continue to do the podcast, like Lily
Yeah.
said and I said. We would love to hear from women who are in business, entrepreneurs, want to share their struggles, their wins, and really inspire the women that listen to the show. Definitely still happening. Um, I have an event logistics business, as you guys know. Sky's the limit. I've been working with some incredible nonprofits. I am so just lucky to be working with them. I work with corporations as well, and growing their monthly and annual events. And again, just open to whatever comes next there, and continuing to grow that. I started this all on my own, as I've shared in
Hmm.
earlier episodes. And now I have multiple consultants that work underneath me and help me with the events, which is like what I wanted. And we're continuing to grow. And, you know, I I think all the time, I'm like, what else am I doing? Well, I used to teach podcasting only on a one-on-one basis. And we have our one, we have our free guide that you can get right now. And we are launching right now as we speak. You guys can get a done for you course on how to launch your own podcast and brand. So that's what's next. So check it out. It's linked everywhere by the time you guys listen to this, which is really cool. I wanted to automate that because I wanted people like women like us, Lily, to be able to do this, right? And it kind of be canned because it can be so hard to just start something. So that's happening. And oh my gosh, what else? I'm obviously still doing a podcast to support siblings who have lost siblings and speaking on that in honor of our brother who we love. And I continue to be an investor, and I invest in things that are near and dear to my heart. So yeah, lots of things going on, and
Lots of things. You're busy.
Yeah, I can't wait to continue to share it here on the show. So keep those questions coming, and we'll answer them. And we'll be back with some amazing guests. Lily, anything else you want to add before we close out? I can't believe we've already closed this. This has been so much fun. Like, I love it.
Just want to thank everybody. This has been really fun. I mean, to us, we're just talking to each other right now, but you guys are really receiving it, listening, sending questions, and thank you. We're happy that there's a bunch of you guys listening to us, and whether you're just starting your journey, you're in the middle, or been doing it for 20 years, thanks for listening.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening and continuing to support us as we continue to grow our businesses. Obviously, follow Lily, follow me, Upcycled by Lils. She has some incredible vintage finds. She's being way too humble right now. So follow her. I'll continue to shop with her because, of course, she's my sister. But beyond that, fabulous stuff. More to come. And I guess, like I mentioned earlier, find a co-host. If you want to do what we're doing and you want to find a co-host, I've been overwhelmed by those messages as well. But we will see you guys next season. Keep those questions coming, and can't wait to
them coming.
Yeah, can't wait to bring you guys some more incredible women on the show tw. I'm super excited. And I'm open to those suggestions too, right, Lil? Who they want to hear from.
Yeah, if you have, if it's somebody let us know.
Let us know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Lil, for being here again, and we'll be back on our next season.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for listening to the MaYapinion Podcast. Make sure to follow us on all major social media platforms at MaYapinion Podcast. And don't forget to follow Lily at Upcycled by Lils on Poshmark, TikTok, and Instagram. And don't forget to follow Maya at Maya Roffler on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. We'll see you back here next time.